everybody. Hope you're having a great start to your week. Tom Hess here, and today we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to talk about something that I am actually really bad at. I'm not going to be the one teaching it to you. I've brought in the very best person that I know, and I know a lot of people, to teach you some really cool things. Specifically, we're going to be talking about learning and mastering hybrid picking. Okay. Now, again, this is not something I'm very good at. In fact, I kind of suck at it. But I brought in my very, very special, long time friend and colleague of mine who I respect greatly. Um, and that is Simon Candy from Australia. Welcome, Simon. Glad that you're here, buddy.
Hey, Tom Hess, how are you? Great to be here. Thanks for
What
having
now?
me.
Great, man. Now, what time is it in Australia right now? It's 1 p.m. here in Chicago.
4 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday.
Yeah, well, it's 1 o'clock on a Monday here. It's 4 a.m. and this is dedication. So thank you, Simon, for being here early in the morning. I'm not sure if you woke up early or you just stayed up since last night, but whatever you did, it's greatly appreciated. So before we get started, I wanted to invite everyone who's here with us live today. Let us know who you are and where you're from. We always like to see that. And then if you have questions about today's topic, not about other topics, but about today's topic, let us know in the chat as we go on, and we'll try and get to as many of those as we can as we move along here. So, Simon, I just wanted to, maybe ask you if you could create like a kind of a quick start guide to hybrid picking. Maybe start by defining what hybrid picking is. Not everybody, some people may not know exactly what it is or have a wrong idea about what it is. And just let us know what it is, how you can learn it, how you can get started, what are some things you can do, and maybe sort of what are some, 3 quick ways that people can get going to learn this cool technique.
Okay, so hybrid picking, as the name suggests, is when we combine fingers and pick. So I see the guitar as there's 3 basic approaches you can have to playing guitar. You can use a plectrum, a pick, flat pick. You can use your fingers, finger style, finger picking, or you can use a combination of the 2, pick and fingers. So essentially that's what it is in a nutshell. And like playing with a plectrum or finger picking or hybrid picking here, it might be popular in some styles more than others. Granted, country players, the rockabilly sort of stuff is very heavily, hybrid picked sort of music, but it is relevant and adaptable to all styles of music. It's just a way of sounding the notes on your instrument. What you do with them is up to you. So don't pigeonhole it as, well, I'm not a country player, so I don't hybrid pick, or, I play electric, so I don't, need to use my fingers and so forth. That's only acoustic stuff, which is not true at all. It's as applicable, as usable in really any style, more or less, whether you're on acoustic or electric. So I'll give you a basic overview here, and then we can get into some specifics of what you can do to start developing this skill. And you can use it a little bit, or you can use it a lot. So it doesn't have to be everything you do from now on is going to be hybrid picking. You might use it very sparingly, but it can be very useful. For example, if someone's using just a flat pick and we've got a little riff, they're going to use the pick for all those notes of the riff there. A hybrid picker will bring in 1 or 2 of the fingers to pluck the strings in line with the pick. So I'm playing the note that falls on my 4th string here. It's just a little A minor pentatonic riff. I'm playing the note that's falling on the lower string of the riff, the 4th string, with my pick, and then I'm using my ring finger. I could just as easily be my middle finger. That's my middle finger. I get a little bit more of a snappier sound with my ring finger, so it depends on the tone that I would like. But that's hybrid picking in a sort of nutshell, but that is just with a little riff. a finger picker might do something like this, whereas someone who hybrid picks would do this. Now the thing here is you can hear a difference, I hope it comes across on the video, of that sharper bass versus the softer mellow thumb there. So there's quite a difference in tone, and so that's part of the beauty of hybrid picking. One is the tone you can get, the variance in tone. The other is the possibilities you can do that you can't do, at least compared to flat picking. If we're looking at hybrid picking versus finger picking, you can kind of do the same things with either, but there's still a tonal difference. And if you're hybrid picking, you can revert within a split second to flat picking. If you're only finger picking, now you got to go get your pick, and so you can go back and forth rapidly, smoothly, effortlessly when you're hybrid picking. The thing with hybrid picking versus finger picking, if I'm finger picking, I've got the use of my index finger along with my other fingers here. If I'm hybrid picking, the index is busy holding the pick, so the index finger's out of the equation, and I can use my pinky too. We'll talk briefly about that today too, but mainly it would be most likely your middle and your ring fingers. There's many famous riffs that wouldn't sound the same without hybrid picking. For example, right, ZZ Top, Lagrange, that's my fingers. All those double stops there are my fingers, and you get that sort of snappy sound where you can immediately mute it. You can't, that's how it's going to sound with your pick. It's kind of heavy, whereas so you've got things like that for the tonal purposes, or if you think of something like right, Scar Tissue, Red Hot Chili Peppers. So yeah, if we're trying to do that with the pick, it's maybe kind of possible, but it's going to sound very clunky. It's not going to have the same tone. We're skipping strings. We've got the fingers sitting right there, ready to go. So riffs like that, there's a ton of them, are done with hybrid picking, and they give you the tone and they give you the possibilities that you might not get or won't get really with the pick alone. So that's kind of an overview. Does that give you an idea there, Tom Hess?
Yeah, that's great stuff. Now, one of the things you didn't mention it specifically, but I think you basically demonstrated it in the first lick that you were playing, first riff of this live stream, was that, by adding in the hybrid picking, you will avoid needing to do string skipping with the pick. If you were to pick it all, which you could do, you have this string skipping challenge, which you removed by plucking with your middle finger, I think it was, or ring.
Yes.
So that's an additional advantage, is it makes some things that are challenging to play with the pick possible, but hard, could make it easier. You hear sometimes players do this, Zach Wilde, for example, does this sometimes, and some other players as well. So, and of course, there are many things that you just simply cannot do
Yes.
pick without, using your fingers or something else. So,
yes,
great stuff.
Totally different tone, quality to it. So you've got the pick still when you want to use it, but then you've also got the additional tone you get with the middle finger and the ring finger, and they're very different. And certainly different to the pick, so you can get the combinations of those. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. One other thing you mentioned kind of in passing was that your ring finger, you said it has a sort of a snappier tone than the middle finger. What causes that, or why is that the case?
I think it's the angle of the finger to the string when you pluck it versus the middle finger. The middle finger is going to be more or less, if you can see, they're sort of perpendicular or 90 degrees to the string, whereas when I pick with my ring finger, it's on a little bit more of an angle, just naturally how the fingers are to the string. So I think it's mainly that, and it gives you that snappier sort of sound. That when I finger pick, I like to think of the three fingers, so index included here, as kind of like pickup switches. This ring finger we're talking about here has the sort of bridge pickup sound with the snappier sort of sound, whereas it's a bit of a warmer sound with the middle finger, and I think warmer again with the index finger. So you get the mixing of those particular approaches there. I've got, I should mention too here, I have nails. They're pretty short. They're just coming over the tips of my fingers, which contribute to the tone. Whether I'm finger picking or hybrid picking, it depends on the sound I want. I can pick the string where I get minimal nail and get a bit of a warmer sound, or I can pick it more with the nail for a sharper sound again. But you don't need to have nails. So don't let the fact that you don't have nails or can't grow your nails because they break, or don't want to grow your nails, don't let that stop you finger picking or hybrid picking, because there's many players who don't have the nails and sound just as good and get the variance in tone because they build up the calluses on the fingers over time, and that in itself sort of acts like the nail does when you're plucking the strings.
So the nails would give the tone would be a little brighter, and the fingertips would be a little warmer.
Yes, that's right. And you can kind of, turn that up and down a little bit by how much flesh you give to the string versus the nail. Generally speaking, by default, I'm sort of 50-50. But if I particularly want a warmer sound, then I'll get more of the flesh on it versus the nail. I don't want to go really too far this way because then it gets twangier again, unless I want that sound momentarily. But it does get a different, it's like, turning the tone knob essentially, or the pickup switch.
Yeah, good, great stuff. Thanks for clarifying that stuff. So what are some ways that people can start to learn this if this is new to them or they don't have a lot of experience doing it?
Yep. Okay. So I would start with one finger and the pick essentially. Okay. So we can hybrid pick with one finger, two fingers, three fingers. So we'll divide it down like this. There'll be our sort of three ways to master this style, or to introduce this style to our playing. So one thing we could do is just simply hold your pick like you would normally pick, like you normally would, and pluck the bottom string as you would normally. However, the next string you're going to pluck, the open fifth string here, will be with your middle finger, the next available finger. So it would be probably a good idea to, if I can stangle a touch there, when I go to pick the low string with my pick here, my middle finger is already resting on that string above. So it's ready to go. It's prepared ahead of time. So I pick, and then I pluck the string above, the fifth string in this case, with my middle finger. Pick, finger. And then I go to the next string set, overlapping, so the fifth string here now, and my ring finger, middle finger, not ring, middle finger, is resting on the fourth string now. So I pluck the fifth string, and then I pluck the fourth string with my middle finger. Then I go to the next string set, 4 with the pick, and 3 with the middle finger. Then 3 with the pick, second string with the middle finger, then the top two strings, first string with the pick, and the middle finger plucks the top string. So if we put that together slowly, we've got pick, finger, pick, finger, pick, finger, pick, finger, pick, finger. Now, as you practice this, you could plant the fingers down ahead of time. Typically, when you're playing, you're not going to do this, but for the purpose of the exercise, for the purpose of building fluency and accuracy, it's good to plant the fingers down. So as I suggested before, having your pick on and your middle finger and plucking those pair of strings, then put both onto the next two strings before you do anything, and then pluck those two notes. Then plant them down on strings 4 and 3, pluck those two notes, 4, 3, 2, 2 and 1, and then you can come back down. So you can go up. Now here I'm not planting the fingers because there's no, you don't really get time to do that. But you can be super accurate or build your accuracy with this by training at times planting fingers down, because it's showing you it's working on the efficiency there and the accuracy. And then you'll find you'll be able to work up and down the strings.
My quick question. Do you just recommend no fretting hand and just do it as you described, picking hand only, just open strings?
Yeah, to begin, yep. And if you don't want to hear those open strings, or you're in an environment where it's not great, open strings can ring out a lot, particularly on an acoustic, you could just mute but you really want to dig in. You want to don't be too soft with this. We want to give it a good pluck with the fingers and with the pick. So yes, on open strings to begin, then we could, well, the one other thing I would suggest there is to go through that a couple of things, same exercise, open strings or muted strings, and you could go through and do exactly the same thing with the pick and the ring finger. So I'm doing exactly the same thing, but I'm just using my ring finger and pick instead of my second finger, middle finger, and the pick. And you could also do it with either finger. You can do any combination of fingers here, but you could also skip a string, so non-adjacent strings here. So I could pick the same idea, but I'm picking 6, then 4, then 5, then 3, 4, then 2, 3, then 1, and I can come back down. So I've got now a greater interval between the notes I'm plucking because there's a string in between them, but everything's the same. We can plant and do that with both fingers. Even though there's a string in between, still fine to do it with your middle finger as well. So a few exercises there just on open strings and muted strings that can get you started playing with pick and fingers.
Good stuff. I imagine that a lot of people who are just play with the pick every day and have little or no experience doing any sort of finger picking, when they try this, the articulation of the pick is likely going to be stronger than the articulation that they're getting from the other fingers that they're plucking with. So maybe you want to just mention or talk about trying to match the dynamic range of the two.
Yes, that's a good point. And if you finger pick already, you probably won't have too much of an issue with this. But if you haven't finger picked before at all, whether you without or with a pick, hybrid picking, then yeah, that is very common where the pick overpowers the sound of the finger that's playing. So the more you do this, first off, if you groan your nail there, that's going to help bring up the volume of the second note, the note that's being plucked with the finger. If you have no nail there at all, then it will be a little soft. Like if I lost my nail there, it would be a softer sound, and I would need to sort of play a little bit without the nail, probably a few days at least, to start to get some sort of callus there that I wouldn't have got otherwise because of the nail, to get that sound. So if you've got no nail, give it time, do it enough to build the callus to get the tone on the note. So it's going to get stronger just naturally as you get the nail or the callus. But certainly giving it a good pluck. You'll be used to hitting the strings with your pick. That's pretty natural to you, at least to a point. If you're not used to the fingers, then yeah, you've got to, you want to really dig into the string. Don't sort of do this where when you pluck the string, you're lifting it away from the guitar. You want to pick in, whether you're finger picking, hybrid picking, the trajectory, if you like, of your fingers got to go towards your palm. Sometimes people get this claw-like thing and they pick like this, and they're bobbing up and down and picking away from the string like this. We want to pick towards the palm of the hand. It's like if you clap one-handed clap, that's the motion of the fingers when you pluck the string. They're not going to go to the point where they hit the palm of your hand, of course, when you're plucking. That's not the point. But they are from the base knuckle plucking. That's where you'll get the best tone and the power, not just, this pulling away from the string from the middle knuckle. So it's a real pluck towards the palm of the hand. That's the direction you're going when you pluck the strings. And then if I was to really, really slow it down and sort of even pause at a point just before I pluck the string, I'm pushing quite a bit of pressure into the string with my finger there. And then I release that pressure and sound the note. So it's a real dig into the string. Don't be too careful with it.
Clarifying question, and then we'll take a couple questions maybe from the audience here with us live.
Sure.
The thing you just said about adding pressure to the string, just to clarify for people, that you're talking about pressure down towards the sound hole or across, you're this way.
Or which way was the other?
Well, up towards your face or down towards the sound hole.
It's downward, really. It's a little down, and then you're plucking sort of to the side, but it is a downward sort of, not upward. It's more
Yeah,
down.
and down into the guitar, not down towards the floor.
Correct.
I know
Yes.
that you know that, but just
Yes.
someone could
So
think, oh, down towards the floor. I'm supposed to do
Yeah.
this somehow.
Yeah. No, it's a little, it's sort of towards me. I'm pushing down, and then it's plugging up towards the palm of my hand. But it's pushing down into the string more than up or down towards the floor. So
Great.
in towards you and the sound.
Cool. Let's take a question here. What will be the difference between the finger picking and the hybrid with the sound control / muting technique?
So, okay, difference between the finger picking and the hybrid picking with the sound control muting technique. So I'm just trying to make sense. If you could clarify, finger picking, I mean, sound control, similar. I mean, if you're talking about just muting notes out, or, stopping notes ringing through, to be the same sort of thing, finger picking or hybrid picking, in terms of putting fingers back down onto the strings. If you're talking about palm muting, it's going to be quite a sharper sound palm muting with a hybrid pick than with a, that's quite a bit more mellow than the sharper pick. So that is right. But how to control the noise? Yeah, okay. So just string muting and things like this. It's going to be a combination of this hand coming down onto the strings that you don't want notes coming. So if I'm playing something like this, I'm still, I'm just trying to slow it down so I can see what I am doing, but I am bringing a finger down onto the string above, even though this third finger that's playing the first note is muting that string out anyway. I think I'd just like to have the double insurance there that nothing's going to ring out. So you probably don't have to put a finger down on there to stop it ringing through. Just that finger coming down and blocking out the string above would be enough. But then I'm going to use that finger next. So I like to have them all very close by. But pretty much the same as you would if you were finger picking, but it's probably going to feel a little bit different than if you're just coming from the flat picking world, because you're going to do a lot of your muting with your hands, but you probably, no, actually you do, don't you? When you're playing with a pick, what am I talking about? Like, you do have fingers stop muting strings. So a long way to say, I don't think there's huge difference, in terms of string muting.
Very good. There's another question. There's another good one here. Different with a thumb pick. It's not exactly a complete sentence, but I'm not sure exactly what he was referring to. But maybe you could talk about just the difference generally between, flat pick with the hybrid picking or using a thumb pick instead.
Yeah, that's a good question. So thumb pick. So for those who don't know, thumb pick sits on your thumb. It's sitting below my nail. There's lots of different sorts, but it's there. You don't need to hold it like a normal pick. It's strapped to your thumb. And it's used a lot in Travis picking styles and things like that. It gives you the same sort of sound. So what I was doing here gives you the same sort of sound as the hybrid picking. But the thing is, when I'm using different fingers on the top strings here, because I now don't have my index finger. When I have the thumb pick, I'm using my index finger. I'm using my index finger there. So when I've got the hybrid pick, so I'm using the thumb pick there, but I'm pretending it's a pick, and I'm only using these fingers. So there's a little bit of a difference in the sound, as much as you probably get a bit of a difference in different picks when you're using them with the tone, but essentially the same, apart from not having your your index finger to use anymore. So you've got to adjust to that, and that can feel a little strange at first if you're coming from, finger picking, and certainly with a thumb pick, but just any sort of finger picking. But if I'm playing with the thumb pick and now I want to go into some single note playing, it is a little clunky trying to do that with a thumb pick. They typically come out of the thumb at a, I wouldn't hold my pick out that far if I'm playing with a flat pick. So you can't seamlessly go from one to the other as well, unless you're really used to doing that. Then you could with your pick. So there's pros and cons to both, and it depends what you want to do. But they are quite similar with the, without the index finger when you're using the hybrid picking approach.
Very good. All right, let's before we dive into the next thing that I know you're going to talk about, let's quickly take this question from Chris. You may remember Chris, who's been at our events in the past, live events. Great guy. You've met him before. So, but yeah, this question here: are there exercises to play the bass line with the pick and a different melody with the fingers, like Sweet Caroline?
Okay, good question. And I think I've got something I'd already prepared that's hopefully going to answer that, which we'll do right now.
Cool.
No, we can do that right now.
When you get to it then, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're pretty much there, so I can go into that. Yeah, I think it's a good time to do that. So you're talking basically about one of the fundamental things with finger picking and hybrid picking is thumb and finger independence. The thumb or the pick in this case doing one thing and the fingers doing another, and building that ability to have those things happening at the same time. It's a little bit like, I think of the pick or my thumb when I'm finger picking as like the left hand of a pianist and my fingers as the right hand. It's not as obvious two different things are happening as it is when you're playing a piano. You can see that a little bit more visually. Here though, it's not so, but it's the same thing in principle. This is doing one thing, these are doing another a lot of the time. So if a great exercise, if we were to take just the top octave plus one note of an E minor pentatonic scale. So this is coming from pattern 1 in the open position, E minor, but we're only going to play from the E on the 4th string. So we're going to play that second fretted note on string 4, then the next string is open 2, then the second string is open 3, top string, open 3. So it's just the top 4 strings of an E minor pentatonic scale. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the first note of that scale, being the E note, 2nd fret, 4th string, and our pick. And what we're going to do, the pick is going to play the open bottom string, and your, let's say, middle finger, it could also be the ring finger, but we'll go with the middle finger here. We're going to pinch those notes together. So we're going to play the pick down on the bottom string and the middle finger plucking the 4th string. So the thumb is going a downward motion and the finger, as I was saying before, is picking upward, essentially, pushing down and then picking towards the palm of your hand. So we're going to move through the scale and just play the low E string with every note of the scale. So that was the first note. The second note is the open 3rd string. So we can play that with the low E string. Then we can play the next note on the same string, the 2nd fret, also with the bottom string. Then we can go to the 2nd string and play that with the low E. Then the D note, 3rd fret, 2nd string. Then the top string along with the bottom string together. So we're pinching here essentially. And then the top note in the pattern, the G note there, 3rd fret, 1st string. So if I go through that slowly, you're going to hear this scale, and you're going to hear this, which is what my pick is doing the whole time, along with the note. So it's going, and we can come back down. You can use just your middle finger, you could use just your ring finger, you could use combinations of those. This is okay, don't get too caught up on which finger should I use. Any one, really, it's not going to be too much of a problem. I think I tend to alternate a little bit sometimes. When I get to the top string, I tend to maybe use my ring finger because it's a little easier to reach the string. It's more naturally around that string than my middle finger, but there's no right or wrong here. You could use just the one finger to keep it nice and simple, either one. So we're doing that first. Just the notes together. Then we can separate those notes. So we can play the low note first, then the note of the scale. So instead of together, we pick the low one and then the higher note, the first note in the scale. Then we pick the low string again, next note in the scale, low string, next note, low string, missed open first, then the third fret. So we get this. So we're now separating them, right? So we've gone, you could think of it as quarter notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Right? 2, 1, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and just delaying the scale note and then coming back down. Then we can, there's a lot of things we can do here to build this independence I'm talking about. So one would be to pinch, as we did initially, and play the scale note again. So now when I play it, you're going to hear two things. You're going to hear the thumb or the pick doing this, and you're going to hear the scale going. Right, so two things same time. So we got back down. So I've got an eighth note rhythm with my scale, and I've got a quarter note rhythm with my pick. We could reverse that. We can have this do the eighth notes, and we could have the scale just playing quarter notes. So that'd be the whole idea is to get variations of the pick and the fingers doing different things on that scale. You might notice that I am muting, palm muting the low string as I do this. It's not like a rule, but it's typically what happens when you play this sort of way, because you want the melody note, the higher note, to really be out there, and you want the accompaniment, the steady bass that the pick is doing back, right? We want to create the distance there. We don't want them to be both taking up the same sort of space there. So if I was to do it, that'd be okay to get started, but then you'd want to palm mute. So you can get that separation between the two. And then there's songs like right, that's the song Credence. That's John Fogerty. He's a hybrid picker for a lot of things, I believe. Certainly that riff. You're not going to get that with just pick or just fingers. If it was just fingers, you lose the punch in the bass, that thud. So you really want. But that is just using riffs from that pentatonic scale. So you can branch out into developing little riffs and things like this. Maybe something very simple. If I had just a simple little riff like that. So I'm playing 3 open, open 3 on the second string, and then 2 open top strings. So you can take little fills like this, just very, very simple, and see if you can play that against the drone of the low E doing a quarter note rhythm. And the trick is seeing which of the melody notes, the riff, line up with the thumb or with the pick, which don't, which are in between. So it's kind of mathematical. You work it out, you could write it down, you could see it visually, and then you very slowly start to put it together. I'm skipping a little bit here because we don't have the time to go deep into this, but if you were to write that out, and you 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and would be the rhythm da 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 of your riff, and then this is always just going to be on the beat. I mean, we could do the eighth notes with the pick too, but we'll just keep it with a steady down. And you could leave a little bar. Do do it against the drone of an A. Same riff. Back to the E. So we're sort of outlining a blues there in E. Go to a B7. To the A. So I can go into some sort of flat pick riff there and get that sound still very easily, and then back to, you know, the hybrid picking and things like that. So even with real minimal sort of stuff, you can do a lot and feel a lot of sound without doing a whole lot, really. And that's a really, really good exercise, whether it's hybrid picking or thumb, to start building that finger and thumb independence and have it sound sort of musical, and see the point of how you could then take that and create riffs and, you know, go to town on it, basically. So hopefully that, yeah, helps with the question there. And
that's great stuff. And I think it's probably going to be really useful for people where this is new to get the fingers and the pick to be more working independently, to practice, as you suggested, in different rhythms, where one is doing eighths and the other is doing quarters, and then vice versa. And then also different dynamic ranges where you are palm muting with the pick so that the melody notes pop out more. So it's not all the same volume. So that will help build not only better, more interesting musical music, but also just more independence as you practice that to keep things working more independently, which is
definitely
good to have that skill versus not having it.
And I mean, if you can imagine being on, I don't know, something like a Tele or a Strat, and you've got that nice clean tone and you've got some reverb, the dynamics you can get with hybrid picking is brilliant. So, you know, you can hear it here on the acoustic and it's great, but if you've got a bit of, you know, the nice clean sound on an electric guitar, and you start doing some hybrid picking sort of stuff, you can get such great dynamics that you won't get with the pick alone. So yeah, definitely great to experiment with.
Very cool. All right, you got maybe one more thing you can share, and then we'll get into whatever final questions there are, if any.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've been talking pretty much to this point in time, one finger. I mean, maybe we're doing each finger, you know, at a time, but we can pick, of course, with both fingers and the pick as well. So we're sort of talking like double stops in a sense, although we could play a chord, arpeggiated chording some way, and we can pick notes either together or separately. So something that if you think of the Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan sort of rhythm fill stuff, you know, you got these sorts of things. So if I'm just using my pick, it's got a certain sound, nothing wrong with that. But it's very different when I'm using my fingers to do that. So there's still a little bit of picking there, but I like that sound a lot more. Than just the pick. The pick's very sort of heavy. It's okay if you want more of an attack, no problem. But it's, yeah, double stops sound great when you're using fingers. It's kind of like coming back to this sort of thing. Okay, double stops there if you like, part of an A chord. So some things that you could do to bring in both fingers, whether they're going to play separately or together. We could take something like, let's see, if we're harmonizing, I'll just take a little third. These are thirds. I'm using E, I think it's E mixolydian I'm going to use here. Doesn't matter, you don't need to know. All we're going to do is play the first fret on the third string, first fret third string with the first finger, and with it we're going to play the open second string. And I'm going to use my middle and my ring finger to pluck both those strings together. So we're plucking upward in towards the palm of the hand. You could keep your pick resting on the bottom string if you wanted. Doesn't matter too much necessarily, but you don't want it. Yeah, you're going to have it close anyway because your fingers need to be there. So we're just plucking those two notes together, just a little double stop, and then we can go to the second fret and play both notes on the second and third string in that fret. I'll use my second and third fingers, and we can pluck those together with the same fingers, ring and middle. Then we can go up. Now we're side by side. It's the same shape we started on, only we're in an open position here. So now we're in adjacent frets there. First finger, third fret, second on the third of the third string, and same fingers all the while, plucking the double stops. I take that shape and carry it up, and then I come back to the second and third fingers in the same fret. So we got that. And what you could do, that alone, just playing double stops like that, anything with double stops is great, but you could play that with the low drone E string, like this. So now you've got three notes happening at the same time. So it's not just the two notes, it's the two notes that are being played with the fingers and the pick together. Or you could separate those, so you could arpeggiate essentially. You could play each note one after the other. Or you could reverse that. So the low note always first, but then I could play the higher of the two notes and come back with the lower note. We could mute it. Like we were talking about before, either one is fine. Or you could, sort of alternate that. You could ascend the first, descend the second, ascend, descend. So different combinations, and you could do this on sixths and thirds and up and down the fretboard. So you could play little, those little fills I was talking about. If you ever look at Hendrix sort of rhythm style playing, this sort of stuff, you can, it lends itself well to the hybrid picking. So it's basically either, if I just take it to the top three strings and I play consecutive strings now, pick, middle, ring finger on the three strings, and I just pluck them together. That's good practice just to, you could be holding a chord or whatever, but just getting used to sounding three notes at the same time. Or you, as I said before, you could separate them and you create like a little banjo roll, which is just a forward banjo roll here. Low to high, we're playing pick, middle finger, ring finger, and we're just repeating this combination of three strings. Probably not a lot of time to go into banjo rolls here so much, but it's not so much a triplet fill. It's eighth notes, but a three repeating pattern. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But it's going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So it's moving around the beat when you play it. But banjo rolls are great for finger picking, great for hybrid picking, and just practicing them on single string sets. Or you could take, this is just taking the top part of an E minor pentatonic scale in each of the positions. Just different combinations up and down the fretboard. Lots of things that you can do that, probably are better for another stream, but that sort of thing is great. And it's really, one last thing I would say is, if someone's, what do I do to practice hybrid picking? Hopefully some of the things we've touched today would be great. But it's also just take something that you play with a pick and try playing it with your pick and fingers, because anything is good to do. So check out hybrid pickers, check out hybrid picking songs, but just take some of the things you already do. If you're a finger picker, I'm more finger picker than hybrid picker. I certainly hybrid pick, but I probably am finger picking more than hybrid picking. But just take finger picking things and play them with a pick and fingers. You'll find it strange at first because you won't have your index finger available anymore. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, but I really recommend it, even just to a basic level, because then you can be adequate with it and you can use it quite effectively without having to do anything, that fancy, really.
Very cool. We got a question here we didn't get to yet. It's related, not exactly on finger picking, but we'll answer it anyway. Do you have any string recommendations for guitar teacher who has multiple string breaks per week. So someone's breaking a lot of strings over there. And he wants to know what what can he do? What strings would you recommend there?
Well, I'm a big advocate. I think you are the same, Thomas, with elixirs for acoustic guitar.
For acoustic guitar, yes. I have elixirs on
Yeah,
my acoustic, but not on
yes,
my electrics, but yes.
no. So elixir, I really like. I have 11s on this, which is considered to be a lightish gauge, even though it's still got a bit of punch to it. You could go 12s or 13s, but I don't think the string. I mean, if you're asking for a recommendation on strings, that's what I've used for most part of 20 or more years now on acoustic guitar. I just like the sound of them and the feel of them. I don't know if they last longer than like they say, but they're certainly a nice string. But I don't think it's the brand of string that's going to be the issue here. It's going to be something to do with your guitar setup. It might be, I don't know if you play a lot in open tunings. I could almost count on one hand the amount of times I've broken a string in my life of playing guitar. But there was one time I broke a string multiple times, just kept snapping. And it was when I was detuning to a tuning that wasn't a standard open tuning. It was a bit more of an alternate tuning that I hadn't done before, and it just didn't like it. And it just kept, the third string, the G, just kept snapping. So yeah, unless you're really bashing away at it really hard, even then, or you're leaving your strings on forever and they just break in the end because they're old. I just get the guitar set up, or at least get it checked out, because it seems to be something more like that than the brand of string I would suggest.
Yeah. I've had different luck with different brands of strings. I break the high E string on this guitar quite often, but I'm bending like crazy. But on
So
acoustic guitar, it's a little bit different. If you're using really cheap, some weird off-brand string, maybe there's an inferior thing with the string there. I've had guitars where strings would get broken because there was a burr in the saddle or something. It was getting hung up on the nut. It wasn't filed nice and clean, and there was some additional friction. That usually comes to play when bending strings, but so use a decent brand string, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they're a little bit more expensive, I guess, sure. But I mean, you can get them on. I'd buy them online. You probably get better deal. They can be pretty expensive in shops over the counter, but yeah, they last a long time. And I've always liked them. So
yeah, the cool thing about the Elixir strings, as I said, I use them on my acoustic, not on the electric, but is that the tone, the strings sound new for a much longer period of time than many other string brands would. They sound new when you put them on, and after a couple weeks they start fading in terms of tone. The Elixirs tend to hold their tone, I find, much longer.
Yeah.
I mean, on my acoustic, those strings have been on there for probably 2 years, and the tone is still good. That would never happen on an electric guitar, I use GHS on this guitar, and after 2 weeks, the tone fades. But on the acoustic with the Elixirs, the tone holds well for a long time.
Yep.
So
definitely
great stuff. So Simon, I think that you have some cool resource that people could check out, I think, for free. Is that the case?
Correct. I do. And so what you would need to, so if we're talking about what this book is, just generally it's finger picking patterns, as you can see there. The idea with the book is that there's some very basic finger picking patterns that we first look at on open strings, and then we apply them to various chord progressions. But the idea with this is I didn't want to weigh heavily on, certainly not bar chords, but even standard open chords. I wanted to play things a little bit differently that are just as easy, if not in some cases easier, than playing standard open chords, but can sound really good. So sort of bringing in open droning strings and things like this. Now, when I did this book, it was the intention of finger picking, thumb, etc. But as I was just saying just before, you can take anything and adapt it to hybrid picking. So you could take any of these patterns in this book and you could adapt them for hybrid picking. So I could give you a very quick example here. There's a little progression running down, just a little A minor, dropping the voice in down in the bass with some open droning strings. Now, if I'm finger picking that, thumb, index, thumb, middle, that's the pattern. Thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb, index, thumb, middle. If I want to use the pick with that for the sake of working on my hybrid picking, but certainly something you could hybrid pick, I'd use thumb, middle, thumb, and ring finger. So IM, index, middle, is replaced with MA, middle, ring finger. A is the letter we use for indicating the ring finger in finger picking. So you could just as easily do it with pick and fingers. So any of the patterns in this book can be done with hybrid picking. So if you want to get into hybrid picking, there'd be some good things that are simple to play, relatively simple to play, that sound cool and a little bit different to just plain standard open chords. And if you want to just work with finger picking, well, that's in the initial intention with this book, but perfect for both scenarios. So that is there at that link below on the screen, and you can have that for free. And there are videos with that too. So there's a page you to get taken to, and you'll see me play each example so you can hear and see exactly how they're meant to sound.
Very good. Awesome. And I also have something basically for free. Not basically, it is for free for you guys. It's called Guitar Mastery Decoded. This is a free ebook. Now, it's intended for electric guitar, not acoustic guitar, but certainly you could take a lot of the things in the ebook and apply to acoustic guitar as well if you wanted to. So there's a lot of stuff packed into this free ebook here, but the main one, the big one here, is really a different approach to practicing so that you can squeeze more results, more impact, more benefit out of the time that you're already spending with your guitar playing and your practicing. So when we pick up the guitar, we of course always want to be able to get more benefit from the practice time that we're putting in, because if we don't, then we have to practice longer and longer and longer to get any sort of real benefit. And what you want to do is get more benefit out of the time that you're already spending practicing so that you don't have to practice more. But if you decided to practice more, well, then you would get even greater benefit out of there. So there's a lot of great stuff in there. It's totally free to you guys. You can download it at the link below. All right. So Simon, thank you very much for hanging out here today and all the cool insights and the things that you shared, the great tips, the answers to the questions. Thank you for everybody, or to everyone who's been here live asking questions and participating. And if you're watching the live stream now and you missed part of it, missed the beginning, you can check out the recording later. So take care, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you again, Simon. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Cheers.
Everybody. Take care, guys.
Okay. Thanks, guys.